Yeah.
For those who are following, who are just kind of logging in, we hosted a awesome, very fun kickoff for Threads integration with Halo yesterday. We did it in a space called Gather, which is a digital 2D environment where you can kind of simulate like an office space and walk over to places. It kind of looks like Pokemon meets the office. It's a lot of fun. We'll post a link to that video that we had yesterday, and you'll be able to see Marc and Halo's leadership team speak a little bit about the great integration we have.
Yeah, it was awesome. So guys, let's start to get into it a little bit. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We've got some of the Thread team here, some of the Halo team. We're going to talk about supercharged service experiences and what some of the opportunity is. Morgan, would you mind telling us a little bit about like who you are, what you do, a little bit about Halo, just for anyone who might not know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Halo for just over 4 years now. So I started off on the support desk and then moved into the onboarding team, and that's where I sort of got a lot of insight as to the pain points for MSPs and getting an understanding of how they operate, things they do well, things they don't do so well. Did that for a couple of years, and then I'm now the product manager. So I sort of work closely with Tim on roadmap and really just helping out where help is needed, whatever form that might look like. So you might see me answering support tickets, might do the occasional demo, I'll do webinars. So, and then Halo itself. So I joined not too long after the rebranding. So it was about 5 years ago now that Halo went from what was formerly known as Net Help Desk to Halo and switched over from the old legacy Windows application, threw that away and completely redeveloped the app from the ground up. And that was about 5 years ago. And since then, Halo's had some pretty explosive growth, in part due to that rebranding, because that sort of kicked off some of the attentions, like who are these Halo guys, and what that meant when we rebranded was we had the opportunity to look at the technology available at the time. So the front end's all written in React. So you'll notice that the UI is modern and responsive and sleek. And the first question that people ask themselves when they see new products in the space that look good is, okay, well, yeah, this looks the part, but can it actually do what I need it to do? Is it as feature rich as I need it to be? And fortunately, the answer to that question was yes, because of our 25-year Windows app-based heritage. We had 25 years worth of experience of things that we had done well and things that we hadn't done well that we learned from. And that takes us to where we are today, where we are the number one with the best PSA on the market. And the community will continue to see that, I hope.
I love it. Love it. That's just such a cool backstory. Thanks for the insight, Morgan. Marc, who are you? What do you do? Who are you with?
Who are you? I love that. How did you get on this webinar? Great question. Who let me in? A bit about me. I'm Marc Rosa, head of product here at Thread. My goal here at Thread is to build a compelling, engaging product offering that our MSPs lean on and hopefully love and embrace. I've been with Thread for over a year and helping plug into our co-founders' brains to bring service magic to our customers. Before Thread, I was part of an AI company. And then previously before that, I was part of an inboxing product that was ultimately acquired by Twilio. So automation and inboxing are very near and dear to my heart and is something that we live and breathe every day here at Thread. What is Thread? So I see some familiar folks who do know a bit about Thread, but for those who are unfamiliar, wants to know what is this thing called Thread? Here at Thread, we are an IT service experience platform that helps MSPs power modern service for an online and chat-first workforce. So we help MSPs provide this chat service directly in Slack and Teams, which is where our customers live. And we arm the service desk with inboxing and automation to help power that service and complete the overhead of running the service desk quickly. All this integrates directly within the PSA, including now Halo, which we're really excited about, to help you keep that system of record completely in real time and up to date. So your operation scales while you provide this great experience. And so you don't have to make this trade-off between providing an exceptional, magical experience and running an efficient business.
It's awesome. Love it, Mark. Yeah, and for myself, I'm the head of growth here at Thread, hanging out. You know, Morgan and Mark are experts in what we're going to get into today. Really talking about, you know, how do you create a magical customer experience? How do you do that with, you know, the best PSA on the market, as Morgan would say, and I'm not here to disagree. You know, and what does it mean for us to work together? So Morgan, you know, we were chatting a bit about like how you guys at Halo think about like customer focused experiences and like the downstream effects of like creating a great experience. People are, you know, happier. I'll let you get into it. Can you tell us a bit about like how you guys think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, you know, to summarize it into a one-liner, you look after your customers look after the business looks after the employees, right? So it all starts there with that customer centric focus, and you know, everything stems from there. And fortunately, Halo are in a somewhat unique position to be able to take that direction due to the being privately owned, and therefore you know, being able to make our own decisions, right? No one is dictating what decisions Halo PSA are making, you know, beyond Tim, right? And fortunately, Tim is very much customer centric, also coming from service background, from the support desk at Halo and sort of rising the ranks. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those points where when you say it out loud, it sounds so obvious, because it is, right?
Sure.
It's just a matter of vendors in the space do not always have the luxury of being able to make decisions in that direction. But yeah, at Halo, it's that is everything. And you know, echoing what Tim said yesterday, we all here at Halo want to make our jobs as easy as possible, right? And the best way to do that is to keep the customers happy, and you know, that extends to things like our development process. So, you know, as sort of PM, I want to make my job as easy as possible, and I don't want to be thinking about what development work we need to do, because we have a wealth of MSPs in the community that all know where they want the platform to go, and you know, that's how we triage our roadmap. So it all starts with the customer in mind. And fortunately, what I quite like about our customers being MSPs is that they intrinsically understand that as well, sort of being service oriented themselves. So there's always feels like there's that level of understanding there. So
Love it. Yeah, and I want to pull on a thread that you mentioned at the beginning. You know, it seems really obvious. Like, let's create an awesome customer experience. Duh.
Yeah.
Like no one is going to be like, no, I want to create a bad customer experience. But
yeah, sure.
it's a lot harder than you think to actually productize and put a process around those things, because you also want to make sure you never drop the ball. You always make sure you're doing your time entries and passing information around and communicating with the customer. And what we see happen so often, especially when MSPs bring in consultants to help them build like a really thorough process, is now we have all these rigid rules, and I have to do this and then this, and I can work this way and I can't work this way. And downstream, all of a sudden, that end user is not getting an awesome experience, but you're following all of your process, right? So as an MSP, our CSAT's 99% because no one's ever going to be mean and tell us we did a bad job, and we're checking our boxes and we're hitting our process, but the end customer is super frustrated. Like, I just see that happening with MSPs constantly. So I love how you guys talk about like working so closely to make that process. What I hear you saying is you want to make that process aligned with providing a great customer experience, and you guys think holistically about that. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's at the heart of, I think that's at the heart of every single decision that we make, really. I don't think there are no decisions that are worth making without that consideration at its heart.
It's awesome. Mark, I know you think a lot about providing great customer experiences and how it works into an MSP's process and how it works with PSAs and all of those things. Like, I know one area you have spent a lot of time on is like, how do we take all these awesome things that Halo has done, bring Thread in, work on our, customer magic, make that work really well together.
Yep.
I don't even have a specific question. Just like tell us about things you've been learning lately and what you're excited about, because like there's so much that I know you've been doing with Halo.
Yeah. First off, Morgan, I just love that answer of like, hey, I'm letting my customers pull me to where there's demand and to where their business can be better. And that's why I think, and we'll see later on as we go through the product, like why Thread and Halo make such a really good fit, because we see the same thing. One great question that we hear all the time is like, why do we meet customers where they are? We think about this a lot, and we have a really good point of view on this one. When we look at how work gets done today, not just in MSPs, but in end customers and in the global workforce, there is such a transformation for that end customer, the typical employee in the workforce. Back in the 80s, there was management by cubicles and walking around. So collaboration happened in person or side by side, right? And that transitioned into the 90s into a more global workforce where folks had phones and cell phones to make these calls, and email became something that was real from the internet in the 90s, right? But it didn't just stop there with phones and emails. It rapidly evolved in 2000s and 2010s with RFC and the explosion of Slack. I mean, Slack blew up, followed by the gangbuster success of Teams by our friends at Microsoft in the late 2010s, right? So this work is happening in these collaborative space and is moving in a rapid fire way for these customers, right? It's fluid, conversations are fluid and shifts from synchronous real time to semi-synchronous and for following up. Like the modern employee is transitioning and making these big evolutions. Yet managed services still reflects an era where phone and email are king, right? The ticket is the core request unit and reflects a world where service happened in a burst over the phone or through these long email chains over a long period of time, right? So there's this major disconnect between how customers are engaging with each other and trying to engage with their service providers, and then with how MSPs work with service requests and measure success, right? So since MSPs are so often an extension of their end customer in so many different ways, this disconnect feels real and grows ever more painful year after year as the customer's experience evolves while the ticket stays the same. So when we talk to MSPs, we find that they oftentimes have to make a trade-off, right? Like to the question, like, why do we want to meet customers where they are? Well, there's a real trade-off to this, right? It's, do I dispatch my techs to live in these places and give this great experience, but in a way that doesn't scale, right? I have to take this chat, I have to translate it into a ticket, I have to slow down the time to resolution because I'm overhead and the taxing my techs to have this big translation burden. Or do I say, hey, I want to keep my techs efficient and relegate my most important customers to this outdated experience through forms or emails or phone trees? Like, how do I choose those two? So here at Thread, our answer is you choose both, right? Experience and operations. And that's what we built at Thread. That's what we'll go through in a little bit. We say for at least the customer's experience, the ticket is a poor way to treat a customer. I invite you guys to head over to our site, getthread.com. You can read a little bit more about our manifesto, Death to the Ticket. We're pirates at heart, Bobby, right? We want to say, hey, we want to be able to power a great experience while not exactly.
Always got my pirate hat.
So we want to power this great customer experience, but make sure that there's not this direct trade-off for the MSP who's trying to keep their business alive and thrive there. So we'll talk more about that.
Yeah. Man, there's so much good stuff wrapped up in there. I think like one thing as we think about like where, like meeting the customer where they are, Halo is this incredibly robust solution that is really good at putting great process in place, giving the technicians a great experience. Like, we talk about, it being new age and all these great things. There's so many specifics, and Morgan, tell me, if you think one way or the other, there's so many like specific things that just take tons and tons of work. And like, I think from the PSA perspective is like, just a lot. Like, we spent millions of dollars literally building the integration between teams and the PSA and thinking about like how to handle those chat conversations at scale and all of those things. And, I think you guys at Halo are busy building like so many important pieces of the MSP's day to day that groups like us or vendors like us are able to take like really specific problem sets and solve them like really, really well so that the MSP and the end user can have this magical experience, have Halo as the core of, what they're doing on a daily basis, but then be able to hit these really important peripheral things that tackling it to the degree that we do is probably just like not the most important thing for Halo on a daily basis. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. I'm trying to be really specific about my word choice.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
what do
think,
you think about
yeah,
that,
no,
Brian?
I think, yeah, no, I think I know what you're saying, and there's obviously what we're talking about here is supercharging service delivery, but if we take a step back and look at what a PSA actually does so much more than that, and like you say, it we're developing in all of these areas all at the same time. So it's not just service delivery, it's also billing, it's also CPQ. There's so much going on, and yeah, I think you're there's and Halo. So what I'm going to say is there's always an opportunity here for great partnerships and great integrations between vendors that are specialists in a particular subset. And Halo's no stranger to that concept. People might not be aware, but we have no plans on building an RMM solution or a backup solution or anything like that. We are specializing in PSA, right? And it's our steadfast objective to continue to provide functionality that keeps Halo the greatest PSA on the market. And part of what makes that easier is focusing on what we need to focus on. And that's where the conversation with you guys with Fred come in, because Fred are tackling a very important but very specific problem in this space, namely around ease of communication, the new digital age, the different ways in which MSPs should be communicating with their end customers, ways their end customers are comfortable with. And you specialize in that problem, and you work well with other vendors in the space that specialize with their respective problems. Hopefully, the overall aim of providing the better experience for the MSP and the end customer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So much good. I'm not even going to dig into that further. You said it perfectly. So, we're talking about this in customer experience and, for the MSP and meeting the customer where they are. If I'm on this webinar right now, I might be like, guys, can we just like get into it? Like, what are we actually talking about? I get it high level. So we will, I promise, we're going to kind of show it here in a second. But to dive in a little deeper before we, jump into the actual platform, like, okay, we can see how meeting the end customer in Microsoft Teams or Slack or where they're working, like that's cool. We can talk more about that. But like, why does an MSP really care about that? Like, is it helpful for an MSP to provide chat support?
Ooh, that is a good question. I love that. That's awesome. We talk about depth of the ticket for customers and giving them just a really great fluid experience. But chat as this collaborative space is not just for end customers. It's not just where customers are blazing the trail but technicians are relegated to their ancient ticket dungeons and they're emailing and calling one another across cubicles. It's just not the world, right? Virtually every MSP we talk to is applying some creative process to sit Slack or Teams over their PSA instance and to make how they do ticketing be fluid and collaborative in these spaces like Slack and Teams. We see this from every single one of our partners. In fact, in Thread's early days, before it was Thread and when it was Chat Genie, our first product was not for end customers to chat enable them for MSPs, but it was for an internal tool for MSPs to have a Slack and Teams application that allows them to talk about these tickets, these threads, in a way that sits within the tools that they collaborate. So chat is not just for customers, but it's for everyone who's part of this service journey. So looking at this end customer experience, we find that chat and automation results in it's not just a better experience for technicians, it's not just a better experience for contacts, but it results in much higher, faster time to resolution improvements than a typical ticket. So a lot of MSPs, for example, I speak to who feel like they're strapped operationally, they often ask like, hey, like, is this expectation of real time? Will it break my operations and actually slow me down to lead to longer time to resolutions? What we find is that chat actually powers much faster resolutions because of the nature of chat. So connecting with customers in Slack or Teams, it breaks down these formality barriers, right? There's less translating an ask into sort of this long written email or this really structured phone calls. It feels really fluid and informal. This chat happens fluidly, and these back and forths are measured in seconds and not in minutes or hours, waiting for a phone or waiting for this email to come back after an hour and a half meeting, right? And there's this perception that chat is this real-time thing. I've got to be plugged in. But virtually all of our customers and their customers understand that chat is this fluid thing that ranges with, it's synchronous, I'm talking with you right now, to semi-synchronous bursts that happen in between moments, right? So contacts can engage quickly in real time, or they can swap notes in between calls or even in between a webinar that they're on, right? And it happens in much faster of a way. So overall, Bobby, we find that tickets close much faster, which obviously benefits MSPs as much as the customer. And then this experience is just better. It's preferred by customers and contacts. It's preferred by MSPs. Both customers and contacts are pulling each other into chat. And so you get these higher CSAT, these higher experience scores, and longer retention for partners. Our partners tell us that they're keeping their customers happier, they're retaining them longer, they're future-proofing their business because that's the way that collaboration happens in a modern way.
Yeah, and I think part of that you hit on was just like time to response. Like everyone on here is probably sending Teams messages. I doubt a lot of people are sending emails during this webinar. We'd have to be pretty boring to like go send a bunch of emails while you're on a webinar, I hope at least. But Teams messages are just like that, or Slack or whatever, texting, like, so time to response for that MSP, like think about how long you send someone an email, you wait, later you make a call, they don't answer, you send an email, just the likeliness to respond and time to response, like huge benefits to the MSP there. Another thread that I love to hit on is like, for the average MSP, you differentiate by providing awesome phone support. You answer right away. You're like, we run the best service desk. We're going to get even better by hiring another person to answer the phone faster and like one call resolutions. Those are great things, but your customers don't like calling you as much as you think they do. I think like that is almost always true. Sure, maybe you have a customer in construction who like is only ever going to pick up the phone, but like that is not the majority or anywhere close to who MSPs are supporting. People's moms will call them and they ignore the call and they text her. But then they love calling their MSP. I don't think so. That's just the best way that MSPs provide support. Or to say another way, MSPs suck at providing support through every other method. So their customers are forced. Being a little tongue in cheek, like there's obviously totally caveats, but as we get into like why chat support is helpful for an MSP, not something that has to be the only option, although we do have MSP partners that have literally turned off the phone. That's not what we're saying. We're saying meet people where they are, let them choose how they want to interact, and let your text choose what the best method of meeting your customers and getting responses is. All right, that's a bit of my high horse. Morgan, we just talked for a while. What's going on in your brain?
Yeah, I mean, I think you both put it pretty eloquently. Ultimately, time to resolution is one of the most important metrics that you can track, right? And like you look at a ticket and it is effectively a conversation, but why am I waiting 12 hours a day, 2 days to get the next message on that conversation? The volume of information that can be transferred via the likes of Teams and Slack is so much greater than it is via other communication methods, other more conventional communication methods. And I like the idea as well of sort of breaking down barriers. You mentioned that it's more informal. I think that's an important factor as well. You're an MSP. You want to build a strong relationship with your clients. An incredibly important part of that is providing effective service. But there's a variety of different ways that you do that. It's not just answering questions. It's the way that you answer them. It's the relationships that you form. And you might feel, your end customers might feel more connected to you as a service provider if they feel that they're that much closer in the form of a quick chat. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter anyway.
Love it. That's awesome. Hey guys, do we want to show a bit of what it looks like? Like, what does it actually look like to use Thread in Halo?
Let's do it.
What? You're saying that people didn't come on here to hear us give long-winded answers to things for an hour? Is that what you're suggesting, Bobby? Okay.
I don't think so, and I don't think we're even going to show a video, right? It's going to be live. Like, who knows if it's
We're
even
gonna
going
do
to work?
live.
Nice.
That's right. I don't even. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll find out on this call. Here we go. I will relegate to a demo. Let's do it. So I'm gonna share my screen. Crew, if you could just let me know that hopefully you see it okay. Let me move this window out. Amazing. Let me also move this window here so I can see your
Gotham
faces.
MSP.
That's right, you guys. Listen, I'm a big Batman fan of all of the franchises. So if anyone wants to talk about it, buckle up. Let's do it. Let's walk through Thread's platform, and we'll talk a bit about how Thread is integrated with Halo and what that looks like, and how that creates this really fluid experience. What we see are 2 screens. We're going to shift between a customer's experience, which is what we're seeing here on the right, and then a technician or an MSP's internal service desk experience on the left side. So we talk about chat and living where your customers are. What we're looking at is an application that we provide for MSPs. So MSPs can launch a service application that's built directly within Slack or Teams, based on where their customers are living. We find that most MSPs have most of their customers in Teams. That's just they typically are a Microsoft shop, and they'll deploy that as part of the stack. And so their customers, their end customers, are living in Teams. Now, I'm looking at an end customer's experience here. Imagine as an end customer, I have my this is a demo environment, but imagine that I have like all of my teams, my organizations, everything is here. What I'm able to do is I'm able to connect with my MSP, with my service provider, through an application that we arm our MSPs with. So as a contact, let's say I have a request, or I have an action I'd love to get solved by an MSP. I can come here to this dedicated page. This is Gotham MSP, one of the best named MSPs I've seen, Bobby. And so hopefully everything will just be Batman themed, but we'll find out here. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create a request. I'm going to say, help, my computer is on fire. Frankly, that feels like a higher priority one. I feel like I want to reach out to my service team about my computer being on fire, and like, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll get a really good answer. I'll get this resolved because it's my keyboard. It's smoldering right now. What I'm able to see is that I created a thread, created that ticket, all within Teams. I did not have to leave my organization. I was able to access my MSP right within that experience. And I'm also able to get this great feedback within the chat, right? So I could see that a thread was created. I could see that the request was received. And I even have it kind of looks like this Domino's pizza tracker, which I love. And I worship, right? It's able to help me see where my progress is along the way. This is great.
Yeah,
I feel like
I just want to double click on that real quick, Mark. Like, for anyone on the call who might be like, my customers are going to expect instant support, and my team's just not set up for that. We'll tell you that hundreds of MSPs that we work with don't run into that problem. Like, there's problems that we run into. There's certainly challenges, but the end customer having the right expectations, when they have this status tracker and it tells them what's happening, they go back to work. They're not on your website. They don't have to wait and sit there the whole time. They're in Teams. It's such a simple feature, but it solves a really big challenge. It's awesome.
Totally. And that's one of the first knee-jerk reactions I hear. And I think there's a valid piece of feedback is like, if I switch from something like email, where I know there's this expectation of long back and forths, Am I going to tank my operations by switching into something like chat? And frankly, what we see is that with these pizza tracker, with these expectations are being set, it's creating healthy response expectations to the contact. The contact saying, "Hey, I'm seeing this feedback. I'm able to see that there's track along the way. I can keep coming back here if I want to see the progress. I feel like I'm being heard." And so, as an MSP, we're going to want to make that customer heard and respond to it. So
Hey, Mark,
here
and
is,
go ahead.
yeah,
I was just gonna say, like, inbox is what we're looking at here on the left. Just for anyone who
exactly.
doesn't know, this is a new interface that you can handle your tickets in, and everything that's happening here is logging in Halo, right?
Exactly. On the left side of my screen, so I'm going to shift away from this as a contact. I know that my service request is going to be answered. I see the expectation. We're going to shift gears. I'm going to shift personas. Now I'm putting the hat on as an MSP, as a technician. This is Inbox. This is the platform that Thread provides for MSPs, for internal service desks here. As a technician or as a service manager, as any person who's accountable and responsible for handling tickets within Threads, I'm able to manage the conversations that matter to me. I can organize it however so please. And in this case, I'm able to see this ticket, this thread, come in and respond to it here. This all syncs directly with the PSA that you choose. In this case, we're so excited by our integration with Halo. There's really strong partnerships across the board. Halo believes in what we believe, and we believe in what Halo believes in. And so being able to not only power this inboxing experience, but making sure that it connects within Halo and that you could be able to see this and connect with the ticket as you would expect there, really ties in your system of record. It makes sure, as you know, as Morgan was saying, that your invoicing and that billing is works great. That when you step away from that service desk experience and providing that great offering, you could run your business effectively. So these all sync together. Shifting gears, I'm a technician. I see this thread come in, help my computer's on fire. Oh my gosh, like I think I'd like to solve it. Like that seems important. If someone's computer's on fire, like I feel like there's a moral obligation, not just an SLA burden here. So I'm gonna go ahead and respond here. Hey, I'm great at putting out fires. I'm gonna be a little cheeky. I think this person's got plenty of time, so we're gonna delight in a little emoji here. As a contact, I can switch gears. I can see, whoa, Marc is here for me. Marc said he's great at putting out fires. Amazing. My keyboard is smoldering. And so that gives me all the feedback I need. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and mention, I say, Bobby, you're great here. Any advice? Water in the bucket. And if Bobby gets back to me, that'd be amazing. But I think I have a path forward here. Now, in this case, I can continue having my back and forth conversation with my contact, but really I have the answers I need. I'm going to go ahead and give a response here. Hey, we're sending someone with water. Bobby's on it. All right. And so just like that, I was able to do the discovery I needed, and I'm able to work this thread. Now, I'm also able to move this in progress. I'm able to change assignments. I'm able to do the things that I expect to be able to do, just like I do it in Halo. I'm able to even change things like the teams or the ticket types, the SLAs, even the priority here. I did a silly one for our account. I said this is mega important, and I agree. I think this is mega important here, right? So I'm able to work this thread. I'm able to work this ticket just as I normally would. In this case, I sent Bobby. Bobby's got the big bucket of water. Hey, sounds like the computer is getting watered. And I'm going to say, yes, keyboard saved, Bobby, and the big bucket. This is pretty cheeky. I hope folks don't have to put out fires too often, but all this just shows is that you can have this really fluid chat. You can have this collaborative thread, and even work the thread a little bit more.
So Marc, I think we're getting a high level idea. There's so many things I want to double click on here. John Katz has his hand raised. Let's John, I'm gonna allow you to talk. You wanna ask a question real quick? Feel free to use the chat if not. I see you just put in the chat. Are these updates done via action or API. Mark, can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So everything here is powered by webhooks. Webhooks is and I think there's two parts to the question is how are we syncing the PSAs? And then two, I think I'm hearing it too, is like, are we supporting actions? In terms of the PSA sync, we work with Halo, like all of our other PSAs, we use webhooks. We rely on this technology where it keeps everything updated in real time. When a message is sent, when a time entry is posted, in this case, I'm going to use our Magic AI offering to create an auto-generated time entry. And I'm going to go ahead and save this internally. When I post this time entry and get a little bit confetti technology there, that was quite nice. I feel pretty good. That updates Halo directly in real time. And so when I go to Halo, I'll be able to see that those time entries are logged correctly. And I'll see that my invoicing is starting to represent that information. I'll even see here the time taken and the notes that I attributed there. So those updates are happening through webhooks. Now, I think there's another question, and I'm sharing my screen. So forgive me. Let me take a look at the chat just to make sure I'm answering this correctly.
I answered that one in the chat. We'll keep going back and forth there. Mark, do you want to show like what some of those notes look like in Halo now that we've gone back and forth on the chat a little bit?
Yeah. So here's Halo. As you'd expect, you'd be able to interact with a ticket in Halo the way that you might expect. Any of the changes that I made, if I changed the status to in progress, I assigned an individual, those updates will propagate directly into the ticket here. You'll also see in this progress tab that I named progress here, that these back and forth conversations are logged. If this is an internal note, I'll be able to see that that's a private note, then it's reflected that this only shows internally for my text. If it's a public note, in this case, I tied this to the action note, then that also propagates as the note action and is available to then contact. We also have the ability, in this case, we have an action set up to email a user. And so if I click the send by email and send a message, then what I'll see is that email user action is applied. So the way that you conversate with an inbox will match the actions that you have applied and that you've configured to make that communication happen.
It's awesome. Love it. Got some other questions. We'll handle some of them in the chat, talking about like how to handle time entries and tickets at scale. A lot of the stuff we can get into on individual demos. Check out that link we posted above, like schedule some time. We can get as deep as you guys want. Big picture, timers are running. You can edit them. They do a pretty good job of understanding what's happening. And we can get a bit deeper into that. I know we're coming up on time. Everyone has important stuff that they're doing on their days. So Marc, super awesome. Thanks for giving us a bit of insight into what's happening there. Morgan, anything that you want to double click into before we head out?
No. Just want to say, it's been a pleasure working with the guys at Thread from the start, and looking forward to continuing to work with you guys and seeing the community leverage the integration.
Love it. Awesome. Appreciate everybody taking the time. We are super excited to be working with Halo. We'll be at some of the events going on with Halo later this year. We're doing a lot digitally. And if you are interested at all, grab some time. I should mention, if you do a demo of Thread and you're using Halo throughout the rest of the month, you will be entered to win a trip to the F1 event in Vegas later this year. So definitely recommend getting your hat in the ring for that one. But yeah, really appreciate everybody. Excited to dig in deeper.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Bobby.
Right.
Thanks, Morgan.
See you, Morgan. Have a great weekend, everybody.